Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the most uttered sentence in America in the last 12 months has been, "You're still on mute." We all hear that. Mr. Levine, I want to ask a policy question disguised as a management question. Jack Welch once said, management is looking reality in the eye and then doing something about it. My concern is that the reality is, in terms of the defense of this nation, that the most serious and likely threat is in cyber. Anybody who thinks about a future conflict will assert that it will at least begin with a cyber attack on our military systems, on our electric grid, financial systems, all of those things, and that may be the extent of the war. I just did a quick calculation based upon the 2021 budget. We're spending a little over 2% of the defense budget on cyber. Are we making a huge management error by not recognizing the significant threat and not reflecting it in our budgetary priorities?
Well, Senator, you spent several months now, I gather, with the Cyber Solarium Commission, so I'm afraid that I'm responding to somebody who knows a whole lot more about this subject than I do in terms of the balance. But what I would suggest that you think about in framing the issue is, what is it possible to do? Is it in fact possible to create a cyber defense that's going to be effective within, even if you spent the entire defense budget on it? Could you do that, or is our reliance on the internet and our reliance on computers so extensive and our investment so extensive? If we went from 2% of the budget, from 3% to 3% to 5%, how much difference would it make? And do we need to think in different terms? Do we need to think in terms of deterrence or offensive capabilities rather than simply in defensive capabilities? I don't know the answer to that question. I know that you've got a tremendously important question. I know you spent more time on it than I have, but I can't answer it. I can't tell you there's a magic percentage or a magic number that we could spend that would make us safe in that area.
And I agree with you. We cannot patch our way out of this risk, and I don't know what the right number is, but I think 2% is low. On the other hand, you're absolutely right that deterrence has to be part of the equation. That's the best cyber attack is the one that doesn't occur, and it doesn't occur because the adversary is afraid that there will be response. What I said to someone the other day is, this is deterrence 2.0, mutually assured disruption. And that's really the way we need to think about it. I'm concerned about the lack of data. And your testimony from the GAO, one of my favorite sayings is, does it work and how do you know? It strikes me that we don't have a way of knowing in many cases. Is that accurate?
Well, I think that the full financial audit, which I know I sound like a broken record, is one of the ways to figure out what we know and what we don't know, and therefore which problems to prioritize. To bring it back to cybersecurity, as a result of the full financial audit, DoD identified hundreds of vulnerabilities in its IT systems. That provided a roadmap for strengthening those IT systems from a cyber attack. So I agree with you. We don't have yet a full and complete picture of the department.
The sad fact is the Russians may have a better idea of where those vulnerabilities are than we do, but that's another subject. Mr. Levine, this has been touched upon. It's always concerned me that turnover is a problem. The whole mindset in the military of the three-year assignment and then move on is a barrier to the development and maintenance of expertise and experience. Should we be rethinking the sort of rotational mindset that drives so much of personnel policy in the Defense Department?
Senator King, I would be cautious about that. What I would say is perhaps in some areas. So for example, where you have an area where you feel you need deep expertise. But the rotational system in the military also provides us with value. It provides us with broad people, with broad leadership skills that you don't get otherwise, exposure to multiple kinds of problems, a different kind of thinking. And when you combine the military and the civilian who are present next to each other in some of these organizations, you have the civilians who can bring the continuity, the military who can bring the leadership. That can be a pretty potent combination. So I would say the answer is yes, but I heard Senator Ernst say earlier, what was it, assume prudent risk? This is an area where I think you want to assume prudent risk. You want to test this in areas where you think it would be particularly helpful to build deep expertise before you broaden it.
In fact, we have a model for that in the nuclear Navy where the term is 8 years as opposed to 3 years in other places because of the need for expertise. So I take your point that it should be done selectively, but there may be places where it would help. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.